called Helen Barone. You should know. The close by Dunkirk. Okay, guys, that's enough news. They told me the news is over, and I've got to get John on here. He's the one we all wait for. He talks about hummingbirds and violets and singing frogs and all kinds of happy things. All right, here I go. This is a public service announcement, and this is for you, and then we'll talk to John.
Today is Saturday. Today is Saturday. Salad on Saturday, fruit on Friday, throw on Thursday. Water Wednesday, touch your toes Tuesday. Let's move Mondays, Father's next Sunday. All the healthy children eat well and move a lot. And move a lot. And move a lot. Eat well and move a lot. 60 minutes of physical activity a day and eating well can help get your child healthy. So keep them active and eating well every day. Skip a rope Saturday, freeze tag Friday, tap dance Thursday, whole grains Wednesday, try a veggie Tuesday. Let's move Mondays, fit the sweet Sunday. Eat well and move a lot. Today is Saturday. Today is Saturday. All the healthy children, all the healthy children. Get ideas. Get involved. Get going at letsmove.gov. That's letsmove.gov.
Yeah, 2 bad days for kids for talking about health is Halloween, candy, and of course, St. Valentine's Day, candy. And it reminds me, all I could see on TV was the news about the school that banned candy on St. Valentine's Day. Unless you had special permission, you couldn't bring any candy in for St. Valentine's Day. All right, enough of that. We got the guy here who shoots from the hip. John Hamels. Doc, you're on, John.
Good morning, Reed. Good morning, Fred. How are you? Good. Well, Reed, the snow has returned.
I've noted.
And you've been remiss. I haven't heard one thing about the Snow Festival this coming weekend in Mayville. What's going on there?
I don't really know.
Well, I know that our Rotary Club is doing the parking, and I know that there's something going on. So maybe one of the folks can call in the show and give us an update on that, huh?
I would like to hear that. I hear they switched one of the games to another thing. They're doing some switches over there.
Right.
And it looks like the Snow Castle is very short this year.
Very short. Murals, I think. But anyways, I do know that it's on and that we're going to be doing the parking. And people might say, oh, why do we got to pay all this parking? Well, it all goes to a charitable groups, service organization. That money all comes right back to the community.
Okay, when is this again?
That's this Saturday. I know at least this Saturday.
This Saturday. How about Sunday?
I think maybe Sunday. But I know that we're just doing parking on Saturday.
Okay, well,
so.
we'll have to check on that. Now, you check your local papers. They'll be full of it.
So anyways, that's coming up.
Yeah.
But that's not what I want to talk about today. Today I want to talk about what I would call civility and professional decorum. Recently in the paper, there was a couple articles about a situation, and I'm not taking sides on this because I know how these things can go, but there were some officials from our county that were kind of like duking it out and calling names on each other. And Fred, this isn't to provoke a conversation with you, but this is just me talking about how we handle ourselves in public, especially when we're officials, and especially when we have a political position that we've been elected to. I was really dismayed by what I was reading in the fact that these gentlemen couldn't find a way to discuss whatever they had to discuss in private. They had to take it in front of people. They're representing us. And you know, we talk about all these situations that Reed talks about as far as Congress and so forth. But here we are, we got a situation where it's an embarrassment to our community, to our county. And these people either are elected or they're appointed or hired, and they're representing us. I've seen this even in my own realms as a superintendent of schools or as an elected official myself, where people would come to the school board, they yell at you, they call you names or whatever. Come on, people, let's get a grip out here. Let's respect the office, let's respect each other, find a way to talk about whatever it is on your mind in a professional, a personal manner without having to call the person out. We can disagree, and I know, Fred, that we both shared various roles. You don't have to agree, but you don't air your laundry out in front of the world. So come on, folks. Let's get after these folks. Let's do it right. Let's be professional. Let's talk nice to each other. And, you know, it goes a long way. Back to you, Reed.
After duking it out, I noticed one of them suing I think they're both suing now. They're counter-suing each other.
Oh, what's that all about? You know, all this money is going to wherever. I mean, come on. You know, if you and I have a discussion, we can handle this. It's like, why do we need our lawyers involved? What's that all about?
No, you punch each other out, and then you got to start suing, get the lawyers in. They make another $100,000. Now, Fred, We got with us Fred Crosscut. He's right in the middle of all this. And he of course, he never yells when he never does yell when he's in the legislature. They tell me he just quietly whispers.
Yes.
Fred Crosscut. I don't even have to introduce you, Fred, because everybody knows you. You've been coming on religiously every a few weeks to tell us how things are going in the legislature, and I hope you will continue to do that because you're very frank, you're very outspoken on it, and there's no dodging questions.
No, and I'm very happy to be here again, and maybe I can come back in a couple of months, and hopefully by the time I leave this morning, we'll have some questions answered. But luckily, with John's comments, I was not there. I really wish I would have been there.
You could have jumped into it.
Well, I probably would have used some kind of training I've had for my police work, is the fact that you only escalate force as need be. But
Yeah.
I will say this, I had planned to go in January. They canceled the meeting to February, and I was out of town that week snowmobiling. But I will say this, it's unfortunate. No one's going to win in this situation. I don't know exactly what's happening with different charges and whatnot, but I do know this, that Mr. Duff did have an altercation last year with Troy Smith, our veterans person.
Veteran,
and
yeah.
at that time, a letter was sent that any dialogue with the county executive, employees with the county would be done through County Executive Greg Edwards. I know now, again, a letter was sent around last week to all county employees and department heads. Any dialogue with Mr. Duff will go through the county executive. As far as the legislature and the public defender, that's under the auspices of the legislature. And so it's an unfortunate incident. Like I say, I think it's not over with yet, but it doesn't do anything for the
Mr.
county.
Duff seems to be pretty tough.
Well, Mr. Duff, I know Mr. Duff. I've never had a problem with Mr. Duff, but I know he has some questions, and probably he could have went about them differently in asking some of those
I
questions.
think so. Well, do you think, well, you say nobody's going to win in this lawsuit thing. I know somebody's going to win.
Well, I don't know.
The
if there's-
lawyers.
Maybe there have been lawsuits filed, but it's just unfortunate.
Yeah.
And, you know, if there's charges and stuff, get it worked out. But,
Yeah, I'm sure the smoke will go away. And
you know, we have to deal with this, and we move forward. We have too much going on in this county to deal with that kind of stuff.
yeah, well, John brought up a very good salient point. This is a gentleman's club, really, theoretically, and you don't. It's like the legislatures in Japan or over in China, where they wind up scrambling and fighting, and it looks like a football game.
Yeah, and you mentioned that one of my colleagues, Lori Cornell, was on last Saturday.
Yeah.
I have the utmost respect for her. We'll have good dialogue, and part of the dialogue will be over what we're going to talk about some this morning, I'm sure, is a county home.
Right. Good.
And different things.
Yeah. Well, she did indicate that her basic message was it's all peaches and cream. They're going to try to be nice. They're trying to get along. Everybody looks like everything should work out for the best of the county and the taxpayer and the elderly.
Yeah. Well, and you recall Mr. Joe Trusso. I've always admired him, but man, we used to debate things, and I guess that's the word I'd like to use. You have a right to debate these things on the Florida legislature, and that's what it's all about. You get your blood pumping, you maybe disagree on things, but in the end, you keep in mind what was best for Stapa County, and you come out and make a legitimate decision.
Yeah, well, Lori looks like she's very hardworking, and she'll make an excellent. She's had a lot of experience.
Well, she worked in government in Washington, D.C.
Yeah, and also on the state level.
Yeah.
And she's had a lot of experience. She's also run a couple of times in the county, so here she goes. We got a couple of calls already, Fred. You want to
Good.
take one? Let's
Sure.
take one. Good morning, caller. Thank you for waiting.
Hello, am
Oh.
I online?
You are online.
Okay, I have a question for Mr. Crosscut about the county home.
Sure.
It's my understanding that public nursing homes designate more beds for Medicaid patients than private nursing homes, and my fear is if that county home is privatized and they don't have enough Medicaid beds, where are our seniors going to go? That's a big concern.
Well, you're quite right, because they only have a very small percentage of beds, and they're forced to by the state in public institutions, mainly nursing homes, because mainly they don't pay. The Medicaid isn't paying a diddly squat compared to a regular person who's on self-pay. And incidentally, the Medicaid, which has to pay for the people that are indigent, just cut 11%, according to the new budget they're bringing up in Washington, out of the pay that goes to the private nursing homes. So they're getting skinned alive here. They have a very few beds. The state requires it, but it takes a little long waiting time to get in, because of the fact the only way you're going to get in, frankly, is when somebody passes away, because they don't have enough beds as it is. So there's a long waiting time to get in. County home has 80% of their beds, according to the record. which
It just
are...
seems to me like Mr. Crosscut is turning his back on the elderly, and as a taxpayer, I don't object to paying my higher Medicaid taxes to support the frail and the elderly.
Well,
it's the people that are scamming the system that is what I object to.
Okay, let's...
Well, I assure you that's not the case, but the information I have here at the present time, out of the 216 beds that we have at the county home, 159 are Medicaid beds. Only 37 are private, 13 are Medicare, 2 are HMOs, and 5 are, at the present time, are vacant. I will say this, a committee has been formed, and I'm sure your answers will be answered, because your questions will be answered. Of this committee that the legislature has put together, there's 21 people on this committee. There's 7 legislators, 11 county home staff people, and I credit Mr. Gould for going out because the public wanted more information. There's 1 consumer person on the committee, and there's Rose Conti from the union is on the committee, and then there's 2 legislative people and the county executive people. Steve Abdella, the attorney, is on the committee, and Mark Days, our person. With the proposals that came out this week, and I just got an email, and you'll be hearing more about this because there is a draft request for proposals out. In that, there is 14 different criteria that the people that are going to bid on the county home for purchase or lease will have to answer to. This is public information. It can be shared. I can sit here and read these criteria, but one of them is what they provide for Medicaid beds, what they're going to put up. It also is a proposal for lease. And this will be due April 16th. This is the county executive's request for proposals for
I
sale or lease.
understand the county executive, according to one of my guests, is hot on selling the county home. He's leading the drive.
No, I
don't
would
think so?
disagree, and people
Okay.
accuse me of that too. I want to save the county home. I got an email this week. I want to save the county home. The point is, I don't want the county home to close. I don't want it to put those people out in the street by any means, but we've got to address the financial end of the county home losing up to $10,000 a day. So in the end, if we end up keeping the county home, I can foresee this happening. The county executives come out with a budget next year. This is what it's going to cost to keep the county home. This is how many dollars it is, because one thing I think people aren't telling me that we're not giving them full financial data.
Isn't there a governmental agency? I thought I heard something about some kind of Center for Governance that was going to do a study on why they are losing money.
You're exactly right. This committee on my left here, which is a legislative committee that's put together by the chairman, which has got the 21 members, they're the ones that are going to meet with the CGR, the group doing the study, and they're going to have all this information for you. Hopefully it will be valid. As I said at the onset of the program, I wanted this information out there. This is how they're going to get it out there. I've also
Will that information be available in April, or is that going to be later? I mean, it seems like that's doing it kind of backwards.
That's a question I received in an email this week. One of the ladies that's on this committee said, Mr. Crosscut, the proposals are due April 16th. We need at least 4 months to complete the study. I'm trying to be clear and not confuse you. But realistically, the proposals may be in April 16th. But we have the opportunity to visit with those people. We go through the proposals. We ask a lot of questions. It could be June before it ever came to the legislature to vote on this, because in the end, the legislature has to vote. I can assure you the committee was set up by the legislative end, trying to keep the 2 different aspects together. They should have, in my opinion, plenty of time for the 4-month study to go over the data and present it. So I see something happening before next budget season, but even if we have the proposals in that the county executive wants by April 16th, I don't see us even bringing anything to the legislature till at least May or June.
I thank you for your time.
Yeah, well, and I see the study that you're referring to by the chairman in this committee being completed, but what comes out of that? Will they say we need to privatize it, or can we work out some kind of a lease agreement? By the proposals that we get, we may have some ideas out there. And we can't even answer all the questions right now because we don't know the answers to them.
Okay.
I hope that helps.
Caller, is that good?
Yes, thank you, and I hope that it works, that we keep that county home. It's a wonderful place.
Well, it's a way of honoring our seniors who really do need a place to go who are indigent. That's the big point. If you
Right.
got lots of money, there's no problem, but if you're
Right,
indigent,
right.
most seniors are up here in Chautauqua County,